How's it going, everyone? Here is another 15-minute Kinstretch where we're gonna focus on hip flexion. So all you're gonna need in this one is a yoga block and some space. So we're gonna get started doing some sideline hip cars. So easily what we're gonna do is be in the sideline position. You can start on your left or right side because we're gonna do both. Your head is gonna be supported on the block, both hands out in front, squeezing to create stability. The legs are gonna be stacked on top of each other, and from here we're gonna do our hip cars. That top leg is the working leg. We're gonna drive that knee towards the armpit. From there, we're gonna go up towards the ceiling. This is the hardest part. You're gonna think of rotating your hip just like this towards behind you, that back wall. And as we're going through, you're rotating and kicking, leading with that heel. You're gonna come back forward. You're gonna come back the same way you came, thinking of this knee drawing a big circle. So we're gonna aim for 5 of these per side, nice and slow, rotating, driving that heel behind you, and breathing as we go through. Go. Couple more. The big thing here is making sure that when you're going around and behind, sometimes people feel like they're kind of falling over and they're losing their balance, and that's just because their lumbar spine is now trying to make up for the lack of hip extension that you may have. So kind of start off with a smaller circle as we do this in the beginning, and as you get a little bit better at it, that's when I want you to start thinking of drawing a bigger circle. And get, all right, let's switch over to the other side. Same thing, use that block for a little pillow. Both hands squeezing tight top leg, driving that knee towards the armpit, up towards ceiling, rotate and kick behind you. Breathe as we go through this. Keep squeezing those hands, drawing that big circle with the hip. Making sure that we're not going through any kind of pain. If there is pain present, I want you to go around it, draw a smaller circle, don't go through it. Keep breathing. Perfect. All right. Our first base position of the day, we're gonna go into something called a figure 4. We're gonna start with our left leg in front and our right leg bent out just like this. The key here is I want you to think of having that left knee slightly bent, and then we're gonna use our torso and close the gap of our hip, leaning forward until you feel kind of a stretch in that hamstring. We're gonna hold this for our 2 minutes, and then we're gonna do our PAILs and rails. What our PAILs and rails are gonna be in this is you're gonna think of driving this heel down into the ground, but also pulling towards you like a hamstring curl, but you're not gonna let your leg drive back. You're gonna think of max effort down and max effort pull when we get there. So just like all the other Kinstretch workouts we did, we're gonna start at 10% effort, then go to 30, then to 50, and then we're gonna go to max effort. But right now, all we're gonna do is breathe, try to almost think of melting into all of this tissue and just relaxing everything. So the more that we can breathe deeply and relax the tissue, the better we're gonna get out of our PAILs contraction. A little under a minute left before we start driving that heel down and towards us. Now the rails contraction, you're gonna think of lifting this whole leg using that hip flexor. The biggest mistake I see is that people will lock out this knee and try to lift through their foot, which is not what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to achieve hip flexion, and that's the whole purpose of this video, is to train hip flexion like this, but because I'm in my end range, it's not gonna go anywhere. All right, 20 seconds. And we're gonna start with the PAILs contraction, pushing the heel down and towards us at 10% effort. Deep breaths. All right, in 3, 2, 1, start pushing and pulling at 10% effort. 30%. 50. You can start squeezing your fists if you want to create more tension. And max effort. Drive. More. In 3, 2, 1, and ease off. Trying to get deeper into the stretch if you can. And when I tell you to go, you're gonna think of lifting that whole leg using that hip flexor without leaning back. So in 3, 2, and 1, lift. Use that hip flexor, lift. Keep lifting. In 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, relax. Slowly come out of that. All right, so now the fun begins. When I tell you to lift, you're gonna try to lift this whole leg up as high as possible. Couple things here. When you lift, I don't want you to lift and do this, because the further I lean back, the easier this is gonna be. What I want you to focus on is every time you lift, you almost want to think of pushing your chest forward. And again, that's gonna prevent from this happening or any other funky stuff. If this is too hard, you can have your hands behind you, keeping the chest up and then lifting. So find what works for you. 3, 2, 1, and let's lift that leg and hold it there. Hold, keep holding. We're gonna be here a little while. And back down, and lift. And back down, and lift. Back down. I'm squeezing my hands to create more tension to help me. You can do the same at home and get lift. And back down one more time and pay attention how high you got it on this last rep. And lift. Remember that height. And back down. Perfect. So you're going to use that block again. And remember how high your foot went is what height I want that block to be at. So if you were down here, that's fine. If you were a little higher, that's fine. And then up here. If you were higher than that and you have a lot of mobility, you can use another block underneath until you find the height. So you're gonna have the block on the outside of your left leg about 4 to 5 inches. What we're gonna do is we're gonna lift up, hover over, come down, and then back up the same way we came. All right, we're gonna go nice and slow, try to keep at my pace. A lot of people rush this, so we're gonna go nice and slow. Here we go, 3, 2, 1. We're lifting, hover over, back down, and back up, and over. The big thing I don't want to see here is when you come down, you just let your leg drop. You want to parachute your foot down to the ground. So here we go again, 3, 2, 1, lift, out to the side, down, back up, in, back down, nice and slow, and again, lift, out, side, down, back up. That hip flexor should be on fire. Down one more time, actually, let's go. Out to the side, down, and back up. All right, let's switch sides. So we can get that block out of the way. I'm gonna go into the other leg, and again, bending this knee, flat back, leaning forward, and holding. So we're holding for our 2 minutes here. The big thing that I want to cover in this 2 minutes that we're just hanging out and breathing is most people have no idea what I mean about a PAILs contraction. When we go into our max effort, you know how we start at 10%, 30, 50, and then max effort? Your max effort should feel like if you put your car in neutral and you're trying to push it up a hill. That's the amount of effort you should be thinking. Because yes, we are focusing on our hip and leg muscles to expand and lay down better functioning tissue. But you want to utilize everything else in your body to create tension to help and guide that tissue that we're trying to target. So things like squeezing your fist, pushing into the ground, and thinking of sending as much tension into the leg, the better. A lot of times when I do Kinstretch classes, I always see in my class that there's always a lot of new people that when I'm like, all right, now push into the ground as hard as possible, they're just kind of like, it's not too hard. And it should be like, you should be grunting, you should be really driving into the ground, giving it all you got. It does take time to figure out what you're trying to contract and what you're trying to do. So the big thing here is to constantly improve every single time you do Kinstretch to make a better body-mind connection. And a lot of times people just don't have that connection yet. So just something to think about. All right, we got about 20 seconds until we're driving the heel down and pulling it towards us. A couple more deep breaths before we start at 10%. All right, in 3, 2, 1, so we're pushing down and pulling in. Now let's go to 30%, a little bit harder. And now 50, should be getting hard. And now when I tell you to go as hard as possible, in 3, 2, 1, push and pull. Everything you got. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and ease off. Whew. All right, when I tell you to go again, we're trying to lift this whole leg up using that hip flexor. In 3, 2, 1, and lift. Lift. Keep lifting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Couple deep breaths, shake it out, maybe massage out that hip flexor if it's cramping. And we're gonna start off nice and easy where we're lifting that whole leg without leaning back. If that first one is too difficult, put your hands behind you, keep good posture, follow along at home, 3, 2, 1, lift that leg. And back down, and lift. Nice and tall, push that chest forward if you're here with me. Back down. If you don't like doing this, you can have hands in front and lift. Back down, one more time, lift. And back down. All right, block at a height where you remember where your foot ended and about 4 to 5 inches away from your leg. We're hovering over and back. So get set, 3, 2, 1, lift, hover over, back down, back up, nice and slow. Try to keep at my pace. A lot of people rush the transition. And lift. Let's go 2 more. Squeeze, and let's go nice and slow. One more time. All right, so that's going to finish up our 15-minute Kinstretch for hip flexion. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. Make sure you subscribe to this channel because I'm going to be posting a new Kinstretch workout every week. Until next time, you guys.